Hello, everybody. Today I am back for the Wednesday vlog. I'm going to do another soft spoken vlog because I feel like there's a lot of whispering on my channel. So, role plays get the soft spoken voice, and sometimes I'll do other voices for my vlogs, but today we're going to do soft spoken again. And I've decided that for today's vlog video, I am going to discuss some of my favorite handheld Nintendo games. This will include Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, and the Nintendo 3DS. I don't have very many Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. I did not own a Game Boy until I bought a Game Boy Color. I bought it myself with my Christmas money. I think it was 2000. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it was Christmas of either my 5th or 6th grade year. And I specifically bought it so that I could have my very own copy of Pokemon. Go figure, right? But before that, I did play Pokemon. I just had to borrow people's Game Boys and their copies of the game. But without further ado, I'm going to start with the oldest games and move up to the newest games. So, speaking of Pokemon, the first game we're going to talk about is Pokemon Yellow, which I'm also going to lump in Red and Blue with the Pokemon Yellow Special Pikachu Edition. All three of the games are extremely fun and amazing and essentially the same. Pokemon Yellow does have a few key differences, but all in all, same game. I just happen to not own my own copies of Red and Blue, extremely sadly. It's just the result of not having that system myself as a kid until much later. I think at this point everyone knows about Pokemon. What was special about the Special Pikachu Edition is that in this game it followed the anime a little more closely. You started out with Pikachu instead of Charmander, Squirtle, or Bulbasaur, because in the anime, Ash starts out with Pikachu. And also, just like in the anime and Ash's Pikachu, your Pikachu won't go into the Pokeball. So he follows you around behind you the entire game. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only other Pokemon game you can do that in is Heart Gold and Soul Silver, another Pokemon game that I don't own. But yes, everything's essentially the same. You get Jesse and James, you get the Pikachu starter, and they did fix some of the uglier sprites from Red and Blue. If you played the original Pokemon games, you were treated to some really ugly sprites, especially that Mew. But yes, so Pokemon Yellow, it's a classic. Next up, we're skipping right on ahead to the Game Boy Color, but I do want to mention that Tetris is one of my all-time favorite games. I just don't have one of the original Tetris cartridges, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm missing a very essential Nintendo DS game, but I'll talk about it when I get there. Next is Pokemon Gold. So, two Pokemon games in a row. I talked about the me buying my own Game Boy Color with my Christmas money a long time ago, and I had planned on getting Pokemon Silver with it because I much prefer the color silver to the color gold. And I also really liked the way that Lugia looks, the legendary. This one is Ho-Oh, that's on this cover. But when I got to the store, we went to Sam's Club. I went with my grandmother. She's had a Sam's Club membership forever. And they had these special deals where they had bundled the Game Boy Color with copies of gold and silver. So when I started looking at the Game Boys, I was like, oh, I really like the lime green Game Boy. I really want the lime green Game Boy. But all the lime green Game Boys were packaged with copies of Pokemon Gold instead of Pokemon Silver. So I made the sacrifice. I would rather have a lime green system than get Pokemon Silver. And I mean, I knew that there wasn't that much of a difference between the games other than like the exclusive Pokemon and when you get Ho-Oh, when you get Lugia. But yeah, I decided to just, go ahead and do that. And it was an extremely good deal. I think I got, I think the deal was you got both the Game Boy Color and the cartridge for just $80. $80. Now, as a kid, I didn't realize this, but turns out they were on such a good sale because the Game Boy Advance was right around the corner. So they were wanting to, get out their old stock before the Game Boy Advance came in. It didn't make me unhappy. I got so many hours of joy out of this game on the Game Boy Color and also on the next two games I'm going to talk about. But before I move on, I just want to say Generation 2, Pokemon Gold and Silver, are my favorite Pokemon games. Nostalgia aside, these games were phenomenal, innovative, and truly made Pokemon what it is today. You have to give credit to Generation 1 for being the first, creating this new genre of game. But Generation 2 solidified Pokemon as a game that was here to stay. Elements like breeding your Pokemon were introduced in Generation 2. The day and night and real-time cycles were introduced in Gen 2, as well as shiny Pokemon. So many things that we know and love and automatically associate with Pokemon games today were all introduced in this version. So, Pokemon Gold and Silver. It's amazing. Next is not a Pokemon game. It is two different games. Zelda, Oracle of Ages and Seasons. So, I'll talk about Seasons first because this is the one that I chose to play. This was an amazing game. I, at the time, had played... trying to think what year... Okay, yeah, it says on there. These came out in 1998. These were the very last Game Boy Color games released for the Game Boy Color. So late in the cycle, actually, that the Game Boy Advance was already out. And there were special hidden things that you could get in both of these games just by using a Game Boy Advance instead of a Game Boy Color. There was a shop that would open up that you could get, I think, an extra heart piece in or something like that, as long as you were using a GBA instead of a Game Boy Color. So I thought that was a pretty innovative way to introduce a new system. But this game, I've played it quite a few times, and I think that the system in it, it's I'm trying to think of a way to put it. It's very different from other Zelda games, while at the same time having a very classic Zelda feel. And I know that it's a little contradictory, but it is different because it doesn't take place in Hyrule. It takes place in another area that you find yourself in your travels. And you are kind of like in Ocarina of Time, you're taking orders from a tree. It's been a really long time since I've played it, so I'm having a little bit of difficulty succinctly explaining why I love this game. But I would say it harkens back to A Link to the Past. You've got the item systems where you have to use very specific items for specific things. But there's two gimmicks, one for each game. And in Seasons, the gimmick is you have this rod that allows you to change the seasons. Hence the name Oracle of Seasons. And when you wave the wand while on a stump, you can go from spring to fall or spring to summer to fall to winter, and the scenery around you changes in ways that will allow you to go places that you couldn't go in the previous seasons. Kind of like if you've played Pokemon Black and White. It's kind of a similar system, except you have a little more control over it in this game. And so many neat puzzles were introduced using that mechanic. I can't help but wish they would come out with maybe like a spiritual sequel to these games. Especially this one, because I think the gimmick for this one was a little more unique than the one used for Oracle of Ages. Because the gimmick you use in Oracle of Ages is very, very similar to the gimmick that is used in Ocarina of Time. It's a time travel thing. Instead of an ocarina, you get a harp, and instead of the time travel being limited to the shrine, the Temple of Time, you can use the harp on specified areas throughout the map. Actually, I think you have even more freedom in this than you do in Seasons, because in Seasons you can only use the season wand in particular areas on a particular, like a stump you have to find. But if I'm remembering right, you can use the harp in most areas of this game. And so you can go backwards and forwards in time in specific areas in order to get to areas you wouldn't be able to get to otherwise. Very similar as with the Oracle of Seasons. Like with Seasons, you would wave the wand, it'd be winter, and then there would suddenly be like a pile of snow that you can use to get to a height that you couldn't have gotten to previously. In this one, you could like play the harp and you'd go back in time and you could talk to somebody's dad or something and then change the events of the future. So it is similar to Ocarina of Time, but different enough to where you can't say it's like a copy, because similar gimmick, not the same gimmick, and extremely fun. These games are very related. They do take place in two different worlds. I cannot remember off the top of my head the names of the worlds. One of them starts with H. That's as much as I can remember off the top of my head. So it was very worth buying both of them because they were not direct copies of one another. It wasn't like Pokemon Red and Blue, where when you bought one, you pretty much had played the whole game. These two were very different. They had different dungeons, different plot lines, different bad guys, different mechanic gimmicks. They were, all in all, totally separate games. And the coolest thing was if you played both of them. Let's say you did it the way that I did it. I played Seasons first, and when you get done and you beat the game, you get a code, and then you can enter that code into the next game, which was for me, Ages, and you will get a bonus. Like, the game picks up as if it knows that you played this and it knows how you played this. I think you get extra heart containers, things like that, and that little code allows the game to have knowledge that you have played it. And for that time, that was so cool. I mean, you did have linking technology, but it was, very primitive and everything. But just the fact that a simple code could allow you to transfer knowledge of your progress from one game to the other, I thought that was so neat. I'm looking at my cartridge and it looks like something may have gotten in it. I hope it's still playable. It looks like water got in it. That's really sad. Oh well. But anyway, I love these games, and I can't recommend them enough, especially if you enjoy that old school genre of Zelda games. It's very classic Zelda puzzle solver and dungeon crawler, hack and slash, good fun times. But yeah, and then if you go through the trouble to beat this one, go in here, put the code in, beat this one, you'll get another code. And that code will know that you've beaten both of them. And then you can go through and something even more happens. So these games have a ton of replayability, and I can't recommend them enough. They're amazing, and I don't think that they get enough, there's not enough people talking about these games, in my opinion. So even though they're old, they're some of the best Zelda games. I'll go ahead and say it. These are top 5 for Zelda games for me. So, Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages, and Oracle of Seasons. Alright, so now it is time to move on to the Game Boy Advance. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of those older games, and I didn't have a ton of Game Boy Advance games either, but the games that I did have were so good. I think the first one that I got was Golden Sun. Golden Sun is your typical old school turn-based style RPG. Very similar to the Final Fantasy VI that I'm currently going through on my channel on a Let's Play. It has that kind of battle system. And it has summons, kind of like the Espers. It's very much in the vein of Final Fantasy, but it is unique in its own right. The characters are a lot of fun. The storyline is interesting. If I remember, it's been a very long time since I played any of these games, but if I'm remembering right, there was a big focus on things like alchemy and astrology. And the summons were called djinns, D-J-I-N-N. And kind of like in Final Fantasy VIII, you had to find them in order to use them. I guess it's like that in 6 as well. Most of the ones you get in 6 are kind of like automatically gifted to you, but as you go through the game, there are extras that you can find. But one of the big focuses of this game is actually having to go out and find the djinn. But from what I do remember, it is your typical Japanese RPG, but it's extremely good, and I myself am a huge fan of those styles of RPG. So I gotta say, if you're into that, you would like this. And I remember when I first got this game and I put it into the Game Boy Advance. Okay, today, it sounds silly today, but I remember seeing the graphics and just being like, wow, these graphics are amazing. This is a handheld game and these graphics are so good. They look a little bit better than Super Nintendo graphics. That's amazing. I was just stunned. But I did eventually get over, the fact that those weren't the best graphics in the world. But at the time, it really felt crazy because there were so many colors that were used. I was very much used to the Game Boy Color, where you had more color, but you didn't have quite the amount of colors that you had in Game Boy Advance games. I wish I had more to say about Golden Sun, but it has been at least a decade since I've played it. But I think the fact that it's been so long since I've played it, but it still has quite an impression on me as, being one of my preferred games for the handhelds, it says a lot. So I'm just going to move on from there, and if you get the chance to play Golden Sun, I do highly recommend it. Now we are going right back to Pokemon. Pokemon LeafGreen. Now when I found out that they were essentially remaking Red and Blue, it's not a remake, it's just these games take place in Kanto, just like in Red, Blue, Yellow. So you get to go through Kanto bit with upgraded Game Boy Advance graphics, and I had never had a chance to own Red and Blue myself, so when this game came out, it was what I asked for my birthday. I just remember being so excited that I was finally able to kind of own my own copy of Red and Blue in a sense. In a sense, I was able to go back and take my time playing through the world of Kanto instead of borrowing it from a friend and kind of rushing through it and never getting to finish it. So I think the great thing about LeafGreen is that even when you get done with the original kind of run through of it, there is more added in. And of course there are more Pokemon that you can get. You can get Pokemon from Generation 1, 2, and 3. These games came out after Ruby and Sapphire. And also, since I never did own Crystal, which was it was Gold, Silver, and then Crystal came out a little later, I never owned Crystal. So this was the very first Pokemon game where I was able to choose to play as a girl. And I think a lot of people, it's easy to overlook, the issues of, women, female representation in gaming, all that kind of stuff. I can't express how amazing it was to me to actually be able to play as a girl in Pokemon. I don't know, it's like, it never really crossed my mind when I was playing the older games, because I was used to it, you play Zelda and you're Link, you play Mario and you're Mario, you are used to interjecting yourself into the character you're playing, it's not you, it's a character you're playing. But in Pokemon, there was this big emphasis on the fact that you were the trainer, and that never clicked with me until this game, because it was in this game that I was able to play as a female trainer, so it kind of clicked in my head, oh, that's, I'm the Pokemon trainer, I'm not controlling this person, and I'm not controlling this character in the game, it's me, I'm the trainer, and that was really special to me. So yeah, Pokemon LeafGreen. it's not my favorite Pokemon game, but it's a very special Pokemon game to me. Next is a game that blew my mind, graphically speaking. Now, I briefly mentioned how I felt about the graphics of Golden Sun when I first got it. This game blew my mind when it came to the graphics. This was a Game Boy Advance game that came out kind of like how with Zelda Oracle of Ages and Seasons, how that came out at the fair. It was like the last Game Boy Advance game. This was not the last Game Boy Advance game, but it came out near the tail end of its life cycle. So I actually had a DS when I got, not very long. I think it was a year after I got this game. I got my first Nintendo DS. But anyway, without further ado, Kingdom Hearts: Chain of Memories. When I first started this game and the first cutscene came up, my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe what I was seeing on this tiny handheld system. The graphics were in full 3D. They looked like PlayStation graphics. They really did. Or even PlayStation 2 graphics. I mean, maybe if I went back and looked at it, I wouldn't feel that way, but I just remember being stunned at the graphical quality of the cutscenes. And yeah, the cutscenes are pre-rendered, I understand that. But the fact that it could be fit onto this small cartridge in a way that I had never seen on a handheld game before it really was mind-blowing to me. I remember bringing it to school and showing my friends and just being like, look at how this game looks. How is this possible? How can this Game Boy Advance game look this good? I didn't think it worked that way. The graphics looked just as good as the graphics on Kingdom Hearts. That was a PlayStation game. And it really did. It just blew my mind. And this game is so good also. I mean, all the graphical intensity aside from the pre-rendered cutscenes, it was pixel based, but extremely well done pixels. The models looked very 3D. The worlds were somewhat flat, especially in battle mode. And the battle mode was separated from like the outer world, kind of like how Final Fantasy VI and Golden Sun were, but it was like hack and slash and separated. And it also threw in a mechanic where it's extremely hard to explain, but once you understand it, it's some of the most fun I have ever had playing a game. I got this game, and I remember I got it for Christmas. Maybe it was my birthday. My birthday's 3 days after Christmas. But I played it nonstop once I got it. And then the way my school was, we had our holiday break. Although I think, how did it work? We had the holiday break, and then we came back for like a week or something. And then we had Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday off again for Martin Luther King Day. So I remember I had been at school. I couldn't wait to come home and play this game. After, the week was over, came home Friday, started playing it again. Played it all day Friday night. Didn't go to sleep. Played it all day Saturday. Maybe slept a little bit. Played it all day Sunday. All night Sunday, and I skipped school. No. I played it all day Monday since we had that day off, and then I skipped school on Tuesday so that I could keep playing it because I was almost done beating it. I just needed 24 more hours and it'd be done. So this was, I think, I can pretty confidently say this is the only game I ever skipped school for. It was that good. And I started talking about the battle mechanic, and then I went off on that tangent. The battle mechanic included, it wasn't a card game, but there were cards. And you would collect these cards, and you would build a deck using the cards. Outside of battle, you would go into the menu, and you would build your deck. And you could have a specific number of cards in your deck. And, while you were in this hack and slash battle mode, you could use the LR buttons to shuffle through your deck. And that was how you would pull off combo moves. So whatever card was active determined what attack you could use. And if you had specific cards lined up back to back to back in your deck, the way that you arranged it, you could pull off some really powerful combos. So there was an element of strategy to the hack and slash that I had never experienced before. I really enjoy strategy, and I do enjoy hack and slash. But combining them together like that was just genius, and it worked. Despite how complicated it is to describe, when you're playing it, it's not that hard to figure out because they do an excellent job bringing you up to speed as you play. But yeah, I can't say enough for how good this game is, especially considering it is a handheld game. And actually, I do think that this game was eventually remade for the PlayStation 2 to look more like the Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, so with the full rendered graphics and everything. And I never did get a chance to play it. It's a game I would really enjoy trying at some point or another. It's just, this game is impressive. I think that's the word I'm looking for, that very succinctly describes how amazing this game is. Impressive. The graphics are impressive. The gameplay is impressive. The really unique strategic hack and slash battle system is impressive. And it's all put together impressively well. I can't see very many games being able to put that many varying elements together the way that this game did without feeling like it was pulling you in too many directions. But this game pulled it off almost flawlessly, and for the price that you paid, considering it was a GBA game, I think typical prices for GBA games when they come out were $40 to $50. You get so much value from this game because this isn't too much of a spoiler, so I'll try to put it as unspoilery as possible. When you complete the game the first time, you get to do it again as another character, and it's different and harder. So the replayability is just through the roof. It's so good. I would say this is probably the best game on the Game Boy Advance. I would say that. So, yeah. Kingdom Hearts, Chain of Memories. Best GBA game. Well, I didn't realize how long it would take me to cover 7 games. I'm already over 30 minutes on this video. So I think I'm going to save the Nintendo DS and Nintendo 3DS games for another video. I might do it for next week's Vlog Wednesday, or I might do it as one of the wildcard videos, maybe for Sunday. Probably not tomorrow, but I'll figure it out, and I'll get you part 2 of my favorite Nintendo handheld games as soon as I can. So, sorry, I really did mean to put all of these in one video, but I guess I just talked too much about games. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this soft-spoken ramble. And if you did like it, please make sure to hit that like button. If you would like to subscribe for more, hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release new videos, you can hit that little bell icon next to the subscribe button. Thank you so much, everybody. And I hope that you have a wonderful day and a wonderful night. Goodbye.